Hi, I'm Les Swartz, and this is Swartz Talkin Sports. Everything you want in sports and a lot more. This is the fans show. So we love our viewers to, subscribe, ask questions of our guests, and we've got a great one tonight. But before we bring on tonight's first guest, let's bring on my co-host, Al the Rattler Chester, former quarterback for the Florida A&M Rattlers National Championship 1978 team, and current voice of Rattlers football and basketball telecasts. So let's bring on the man from Jacksonville. Let's bring in Al.
What's going on, Les? Happy hump day. Happy hump day. Hey, man, we had 80-degree weather here in Jacksonville. I'm excited about tonight's show. We got the real Rattler on, our special guest.
We got a good one, and it's starting to heat up here too, Al, just let you know. But before we bring on tonight's first guest, let's let Tony run the guest reel, and then we'll bring him on. So hit it, Tony.
He's won one, lost two this year. High earned run average. The pitch. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. There it is. A home run. 3-0 Cubs. $300 donated by True Value Hardware. There's a kid across the street with the souvenir. True Value donates $300 to Cubs Care.
That homer was one of 49 our next guest hit in an MVP season in 1987. Swartz Talkin Sports, proud to bring in Andre the Hawk Dawson. Andre, thanks so much for showing up at Swartz Talkin Sports.
Thank you very much.
What's up, Rattler?
Thank you. Hey, how you doing, Al?
Good to see you, buddy. Last time I saw you,
big fan.
Last time I saw you was the 2023. You were the Grand Marshal of the FAMU Homecoming Parade.
Were you there?
I was there, man, but I couldn't get my hands on you. But I saw you, man. You look good. You represented us well.
Hey, thank you very much. And Schwartz, let me tell you something. This is bad boy back in the day, okay? And I, I always follow FAMU football, even more so than baseball. And Abbott was the real deal. But let me tell you, how you go from Jacksonville to where are you now?
I'm in Jacksonville still. I've worked and lived around the world a little bit, but I've retired and back home in Jacksonville.
Okay, just so you know, this was the real deal when he was at A&M.
Andre, I remember because I'm a Massachusetts guy, and they beat UMass in the '78 championship. So I saw Al slice and dice with those runs and those quick passes. He beat UMass up, and Al's right. If the weather was good, I think A&M would have beaten UMass by about 28 points that afternoon. But so let's get some good FAMU talk right now, FMU talk between you guys, former Rattlers. You guys have one thing in common, really in common, and that's the name Pop Kittle. What comes to mind when I say Pop Kittle?
Oh, wow. I tell you what, he was the consummate father figure, as far as I'm concerned, because I left A&M and being away from home for the very first time, I was like a fish out of water. And Pop was very big on academics, more so than the ability to go out there and play baseball and represent the university. But you had to really be a student in the classroom, and he preached that literally. But I say he was a father figure to me because there were many occasions when I'd sit in his office and we would have one-on-one talks. An uncle of mine played for him at A&M also prior, to me getting there, and he would tell me some of the stories about his playing days when he was there. But right away, as I went to A&M, not being on scholarship, I was given a scholarship after making the team, making the lineup as a freshman, and he just said, I see a lot in you, son. You have the potential to go a long way. He said, but I want you to understand, I want you to know it's not going to be easy here. It's going to be a lot of hard work. But one thing I caution you is, don't forget that you're here to get your education first. And you got to remember also, you got to back off from those ladies because They're going to be coming from every direction. So he was the one individual that I really looked up to, and he pointed me in the right direction when I was there.
And I tell you, all I can do is echo the same thing. Pop Kittles was a special guy. I echo the same commentary that the Hawk just did. I mean, in terms of Pop being deliberate and honest about what was expected, your expectations. Education was always going to be first. I remember having plenty of nights in my room watching film, eating Oreo cookies with him. And I tell you what, he was a consummate professional. And everybody he touched, man, you couldn't help but love this guy. He was a special kind of guy. And everybody I know that played football and baseball, I even took his golf class, would say the same thing. I mean, he was a special kind of guy, no doubt about it.
But incredibly, Andre, you just said you were a walk-on. You didn't get a scholarship to A&M, surprisingly.
Yes, I got hurt my senior year at Southwest High School in Miami playing football. I was a free safety, and I had knee surgery. And the scouts, they disappeared. I kind of limped through my senior year. I played with a distracted knee brace on. I tried out actually for the Kansas City Royals Baseball Academy. And they came down. They had a workout for high school kids, and I was one of about 3 players that were invited back for the third and final day, but I didn't time fast enough in the 60. And there was a scout at Florida State that made a comment to me. He said, "If you really want to play at the next level, why don't you consider going to Florida State and going out for the baseball team?" I said, "Well, I'm going to Tallahassee, but it's going to be at Florida A&M University because my grandmother's wishes were that I get my education. I had 3 uncles that preceded me at A&M. So I went to A&M. I went out for the baseball team. It was early tryouts. I made the team. I then was put in the starting lineup as a freshman, and I was given a scholarship.
Do you remember his exploits, Al, on the field?
Well, I tell you what, I remember hearing about Andre. Andre was actually leaving Tallahassee when I was getting there. But I tell you what, all his the ghost of Andre the Hawk was around Tallahassee, man, and all of the great things that he did. Pop talked about him all the time. He was very complimentary, obviously, of all of his ball players. But Andre, he had a special little thing for Andre, no doubt.
The toughest thing for me was to go into his office when I was advised that there was the potential that I might get drafted, because this came out of nowhere. And I was invited to a tryout prior to the draft in West Palm Beach. And without Pop knowing about it, I went to the tryout, and I was told by the coordinator that there was a possibility in a week that my name will come up in the draft. And he gave me his business card. He said, "Has anyone been in touch with you about the draft?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, if they do, make sure you call me right away." And I didn't really think anything of it. I went back, and sure enough, I was drafted in the 11th round. And now the decision for me was, do I go back and play my senior year, or do, I go back to get my education? That was first and foremost with my grandmother. And then I had the thing with, now how do I handle this with Pop going forward? So I went to his office, and I told him what had happened. And he said, "Son," he said, I'm happy for you. He said, I wish you the best. He said, "Whatever you decide to do." And I cleared it with him first. And then I went to my uncles. I couldn't talk to my grandmother at the time because she was experiencing early Alzheimer's. My uncles said the same thing. They said, "You're a young adult. You can make adult decisions." They said, "We will back whatever decision that you make." And the thing that came to mind was, this is a childhood dream. I may not get this opportunity next year. Anything could happen. I just want to sign a professional contract and see how far I can go at that level. And I made the determination at that point that I was going to go ahead and sign.
Outstanding. I tell you, that you had a super career, even at FAMU. But talk to us a little bit about some of the guys you played with at FAMU during your tenure.
Yes. Actually, I saw those guys a couple of weeks ago at the Andre Dawson HBCU Classic. Soup Campbell. We had 5 freshmen that started. Reggie Lucas, who was from Jacksonville, he was a second baseman, but Soup Campbell, William Campbell came in and he won that job. He rotated between shortstop and second base. James Brockenberry was from California. He was our starting catcher. He was a freshman. Wayman Winton was the first baseman. He was a freshman. He was a starter. And then we had Joe Hicks on third base, who was also a freshman and a starter. The seniors, the upperclassmen, they didn't really take that too well because that was these young guys coming in and they were taking their positions. But I think of the players that I played with, I think 4 of us actually got drafted.
Wow.
And it was good to see those guys a couple of weeks ago and reminisce about some of the old times.
Now,
Oh, no doubt.
now you get drafted. You get drafted by Montreal. You start your major league career. I want to ask this question about Montreal. You go from Florida, growing up in Miami. You go to another country, but not just another country, but a place like Montreal where, I've been there. I mean, they predominantly speak French. So from a culture shock standpoint, was it like, oh my God, like with the money exchange, the way people are, let's face it, it's a hockey town. I mean, it's all Canadians. How did you assimilate to that? And was it a big, big shock for you?
It wasn't a big shock, but it was a cultural shock. First of all, going to the cold weather, I was a warm weather ball player, and I found out very early on that I didn't like the cold weather, and I didn't perform very well in it, especially during the first month or so. And as you mentioned, you had the currency exchange, and you had the French and English, the language barrier, the food was different. You had the hassle with customs every time you had to leave the country. But outside of that, you just marveled at the fact that, hey, this is Major League Baseball. The fans were a little bit different. They were hockey fans, and they were learning the game of baseball. But they came out, they supported us, and the fan base increased over the years. But I played there for 10 years, and I enjoyed it. I tried to make the most of it. I signed a 6-year contract at the end of 4 years, which locked me up. And I just, marveled at the fact that, hey, I got here, I made it. I did what I felt I needed to get here, and what warranted that contract extension. And, I'll play that out and, see what happens from there.
Well, we do have, Andre, just letting you know, for all our guests, we have a lot of viewers out there. They throw the Q&A, question and answer. We've got Joni, our amazing chat girl, who we already have questions lined up for Andre Dawson. So let's go to Joni and have a few questions right off the get-go. So let's go, Joni.
Yeah, we've got some excited fans out there wanting to hear from you. And the first question is from Howard Bloom. Andre, what is your opinion of baseball's rule changes? Some players have had difficulty adapting to the time limitations. How would you have dealt with them?
Well, I didn't really step out of the batter's box too much. I think that can be argued from both sides. Pitchers usually don't like to be rushed, and players like to step out. They like to tinker with the batting gloves for whatever reason, and they just take a lot of time. I think that is, to me, the best of all of the changes that have been made. You don't give the pitcher a lot of time to think about what he wants to do out there. When you throw a pitch, if it's a ball or strike, you immediately know what you want to do with the very next pitch. And as a player, I just think that, you don't need to step out. When you're taking batting practice, it's repetition, and you don't really step out. So why do you have to fix your batting gloves every time you step out of the batter's box? So there have been several rule changes that, have taken place in the last few years. The one I don't particularly care for is the one where you put a runner on second base in extra innings, because I think that can play an advantage to one side or the other, depending on where you are in the batting order. And I feel that it's also with the metrics in the game, the analytics, it's it's changed the game in a sense where, pitchers aren't really, I think, being stretched out. I think that's been one of the biggest adjustments I think pitching staffs, I should say a manager would have to deal with. That's managing, how you're going to go about your pitching staff. Starter, 5 innings is a quality start. And then it's up to the bullpen. You got guys that are going to come in and they're going to be role players as far as the pitching staff is concerned, and that gets you through the rest of the game. But there are others that have been instituted to try and speed the game up to make it more fan friendly. The game catered to the youth, and try to bring about more, I think, offense in the game. When you tinker with the history of the game too much, I don't like to see, I'm a traditionalist, I don't like to see too many changes because I think that in effect starts to diminish what I consider to be the history of the game.
That's a great question, Howard. I love the answers too because I'm a traditionalist as well. We have more questions from our viewers.
Okay. Howard asks also, please describe the situation where you were a free agent and pushed to get the Cubs to sign you. They finally did. How did you and your agent accomplish that?
Wow, I don't know if we have enough time for that one because I can write a book. But
we can do a little brief one. We'll talk about your book later on. But definitely a little brief one.
Let me start by saying, okay, I was in year 10, and I was a free agent, and I had been tossed around in trade rumors prior to my becoming a 10-5 player. Well, the trades were never manifested, and I play out year 10, and now I'm a free agent. We sat down with the owner, and that was a deal that was proposed to me, which called for a $200,000 cut and pay. And I just sincerely looked the owner in the eye, and I just said, I really don't think that is going to work. At first, I felt that, well, maybe this is a starting point, but it's ridiculously low. And sure enough, there was no movement from there. So we go into the off season, and I meet with the president, who said the offer was still on the table. And my comment to him was, thank you for the last 10 years. But at this point, I don't think it's going to work. And I was a free agent with no job. I looked at my wife and I made a comment to her. I said, well, there's always Japan because they will pay probably more, significantly more than what Montreal is offering. And my wife looked at me. She said, the Japan? I said, yes. She said, well, I'll see you when you get back. So I knew that wasn't going to work. So my agent called me. He said, I've been fumbling some things around. I want you to come out to California. He was in Pacific Palisades. And he said, I want to sit down. I want to run something by you and see what your thought process is. So I flew out to California. And he said, well, he said, this is the era of collusion. And teams, owners are going to force you to resign with your original ball clubs. No one is going to sit down and negotiate with you. I said, yes, I'm aware of that. And he said, if you're really thinking about moving forward, I have an idea, but I need you to be on the same page. And I said, what is it? He said, well, we know that we want to stay in the National League and you want to get on a natural playing surface. He said, the teams that come to mind, and I've heard you talk about Chicago, he said, is that your first option? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, we can go to Arizona and we can present them with a blank contract, something that had never been done before. And he said, they may not be real favorable with it. They say, but we'll give it a shot. And sure enough, they were already in spring training playing games. And I went out unannounced, and I just wanted to have a meeting with the general manager at the time, who was Dallas Green. And I said, Mr. Green, I started the conversation off by saying, I want to make a proposal to you. I didn't come out here to talk dollars and cents. I just I want you to look it over and fill in the blank that you think I'm worth. And I want to become a Cub. I said, I'm only going to leave this offer on the table for 24 hours, and then I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to drive to West Palm Beach, and I'm going to do the same thing with the Atlanta Braves because they were still in the National League and a natural playing surface. And he looked at it. He didn't know what to make of it. And his comment was, well, I have young players that I need to give a look. And I said, I understand that, but I think that I can help your ball club get to the next level. And I left Arizona, I went back home, and his comment as I was leaving was, I'll have my legal team look it over, and I will definitely give you a response. He called me the very next day, and he said, Andre, he said, the best offer that we can give you is $500,000, which was now $500,000 less than what Montreal was offering. And I knew what that was about because he really wasn't supposed to make me an offer, or he was going to make one for me to refuse. And I said, Mr. Green, I said, thank you very much. I'll accept the offer. And he got quiet. He didn't really say anything for about 20 seconds. I actually thought I'd lost the call. And I said, hello. He said, I'm here. He said, can I get back to you in about an hour? And I knew, at that point, now he has to call the commissioner and clear it with the commissioner because he wasn't supposed to negotiate with me. And sure enough, he called back and he said, thank you. He said, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you. I know you was just out here. Take your time getting back. But I told him, no, it won't take me long. I was back on a plane and headed out to Arizona to Cubs spring training the very next day.
And totally, I won't say resurrected your career because you had a tremendous career with the Expos, but really extended your career, I think, playing on, natural grass, wouldn't you say?
Oh, most definitely. And it was like night and day between the two organizations, the fan base. They literally, when I got there, they welcomed me with open arms. They started Andre's Army out in right field. And I just couldn't really envision that type of love affair with the fan base. And I think a lot of it had to do with my giving them the blank contract. But I also had 10 years of playing time underneath my belt. And they were aware of the caliber of play that I presented. But they embraced me from day one, allowed me not to feel my way around, but feel a part of that organization. And it was to this day, it's a love affair that have evolved over the years. And I think I owe that, I owe that to the fans, what the second half of my career meant to me going forward. I would go on and play another 10 years after leaving Montreal. And I sincerely think had I not gotten off the AstroTurf and gotten on the natural playing surface that, I would have played maybe 3 or 4 more years.
Well, I tell you what, Andre, you've had a tremendous career, man. You look at your career stats, over 2,700 home runs, 438. I'm sorry, hits.
27 home runs. Wow.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
Hey, I know you got the big S in your chest and the cape flying, man. I got that wrong. 2,700 hits, 438 home runs, over 300 stolen bases, 1,591 in RBIs, and Golden Glove, MVP, Player of the Year. What else could you have accomplished? What do you think you didn't get a chance to accomplish as a Major League Baseball player?
Well, I never played in a World Series. In Montreal, we had teams that were very close. We had a lot of talented individuals that came up through the farm system and that I had the opportunity to play with. But the tough part or the tough hurdle in Montreal was getting that marquee free agent to come in and really make a difference. The teams that we lost to in the playoffs, the Pittsburgh Pirates, they went ahead and they won the World Series. another year we lost to the LA Dodgers on the Rick Monday home run, and they went ahead and they beat the Yankees in the World Series. So I look back at that and I say, well, you know, it's just something that we fell short of. And then with the Cubs, we lost to the Giants in the championship series. But I think that was the only thing really missing. I felt that longevity got to be very, very important to me the latter part of my career. I wanted to give the uniform back as opposed to having it taken away. And when I got to probably around year 18, year 19, and started thinking about, you know, it's time to walk away from the game, I realized setting a goal to play 15 years had been accomplished. And, you know, there really was nothing else for me other than, you know, not being able to witness what it was to be able to play in a World Series.
Now, Andre, we've got a few more questions, obviously, from some of our viewers. But before we get to that, I need to ask you a question. If the Expos had won the World Series and the Blue Monday, as they call it in Montreal, had never happened, or I think in 94 or 93 when the strike happened, the Expos had a tremendous team that year. They were absolutely mowing people down, and then the season was canceled. If they had won a World Series in either one of those two seasons, do you think that there would still be a club in Montreal right now?
Well, I think the biggest drawback was the stadium. The stadium wasn't fan friendly. It was way out. I think they needed a facility that was suited for baseball. And we started to lose some of the fan base, a lot of it after 9/11 anyway. And that was a talking point going forward. What would happen to the organization and the dire need.
I lost him.
It's him.
Oh. Well, we evidently have an audio issue. Andre, I don't know if it's on your side or our side. We can see you. We just can't hear you right now. Not sure if there's something on your side.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. We got you back. We got you back.
Okay.
This happens with live television, right? We have to worry about these things, you know.
Yeah,
but
end. I was just saying, I don't know if the World Series would have really been what would have gotten us over the hurdle when it came to keeping the team in Canada or not. It would have really helped, I think, when it came to talks of you know, at least getting the ballpark on the way. But the ballpark was, I think, the sticking point.
Yeah, and just hearing opposing ball players talking about it, it was the worst stadium they'd ever played in as far as just playing conditions and the turf itself. But we've got a few more questions because I know we don't have you for much longer, so let's get as many as we can crammed in. We want to talk about the book. We want to talk about the Andre Dawson Foundation and what's going on there. So let's get a couple more questions from our viewers. Shoni, who else we got?
Okay, last question from Howard Bloom. Should Barry Bonds be in the Hall of Fame?
Interesting question.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think, you know, and this is my honest opinion, of course, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Now that's just me talking. Barry's a good friend. He's not a great friend, but he's a good friend. I got to know him a little bit when he was the batting coach down with the Florida Marlins. The problem is, you know, when you're tied to the PED situation, it's going to be tough when it comes to the protocol of getting into the Hall of Fame, because that's one stipulation that came in late. And he obviously one of the greatest players ever to play the game.
Agreed.
I think Pete Rose also should be in the Hall of Fame.
Agreed.
But the consensus, you know, has always been that, well, how are these guys are going to be supported? How are you going to support them as a Hall of Famer? I support, and I can honestly say I support that because I feel at this point now there probably is some players that have kind of gotten into the Hall of Fame that were suspect PED users. And, when you think about, the all-time hits leader not being in the Hall of Fame, the all-time home run champion not being in the Hall of Fame, I don't want to, listen to anything about an asterisk.
Mm-hmm.
The Hall of Fame is it's a museum of history and artifacts and depicts a player's career. So with that, yes, he would get my vote.
Yeah, and I agree, Al. I mean, I think that Barry Bonds should be in. I think Roger Clemens should be in. How many of these people supposedly had done PEDs, and how many players, to your point, Andre, that have gotten in and had great careers, did them and just never, they weren't publicized, right? They weren't publicized. I think Bonds had a great career with Pittsburgh. He was a Hall of Famer before he even got to the Giants. And just, I just think he lit it up. I think he, beat McGuire's record. And I agree with you. There's no doubt he should be in the Hall of Fame, and it's about time to do the right thing with Major League Baseball. Before we let you go, we got a couple things. You played for two passionate fan bases. You played for the Cubs, and you played for my hometown, Boston Red Sox. I got to ask, a couple years at the end of your career, how did you love Fenway Park? How were you treated in Boston, the fans, the media? What did you think of Boston?
Well, I loved Boston. I didn't love the American League because the games were too long. They had the DH, and the ballparks were they were just different. The cities were different, but I loved Boston. The fans treated me great. I got the opportunity to play in two of the more unique ballparks of all time, Wrigley Field and Fenway. The fan base was very, very similar. The only difference, I think, the Cubs hadn't won, I think, in so long that it started to grow to, well, you always talk about there's next year. And in Boston, you anticipated winning. And the ballparks were intricate with the different angles. One thing about Fenway, I must say this, because I stepped out on that field and the green monster looked like it was right there on top of you.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, it's that close. And I said, I'm going to have a lot of fun here. Well, the fun didn't really start early on because I hit some shots that didn't go out and they hit the wall. I mean, they were line drives and I wound up with a single. And I'm like, oh, Lord, it's going to be like this. But finally I hit one over the green monster, and then I said I have to make a little alteration to my swing. But I know I really enjoy playing in both of those ballparks.
We have one more question, I think.
We do.
Also, go ahead.
Yes.
Johnny.
So Rob asks, what was your relationship like with Don Zimmer? He coached many great players, but singled you out as the best of all.
Wow.
I loved him. I loved him to death. And he didn't have a lot of rules. When you came through the two double doors that was in Wrigley Field, he said, all I ask is that, when you got that uniform on, you go out, you give it 100%. You don't embarrass the uniform and you don't embarrass the fans. And one thing about Popeye, I used to call him, he would always tell me ahead of time when he was going to give me the day off. And he would do this when we would leave Wrigley Field and we would go on an AstroTurf facility. And he said, I'm going to give you the third day of the series off. So I knew ahead of time when I wasn't going to be playing. But one particular day in Philadelphia, we were playing. And normally when you get to the ballpark, the lineup card is posted as you walk through the door. And I noticed that my name wasn't in the lineup and we didn't have the conversation that I wasn't playing. And I looked down toward his office. He was standing in the door. And he looked at me and he said, come here, I want to talk to you. And as I approached him, he said, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I said, okay. He said, you already know what the bad news is because I saw you looking at the lineup card. He said, the good news is I'm going to let you manage the game tonight.
Ooh.
And I said, really? He said, yes. He said, so get dressed and get in my office because I I know the press will be here in about 10 minutes, and you got to sit down. They want to talk to you. So that was the easy part. Now, we start the game, and I'm sitting on the bench. Of course, he's sitting next to me. And it's nothing really for me to do for about 7 innings. We were winning the game. I think the score was about 7-4, 7-3, 7-4. So we get to the 8th inning, and they score a run, and it was 7-3, and they made it 7-4. And we get to the 8th inning, and I bring Paul Ostenmacher in to face Darren Dalton, John Kruk, who were two left-handers that were going to come up to bat that inning. And we get through the 8th inning, and I can kind of sense him. We're hitting in the top of the 9th, and I can sense him looking at me. And I didn't really acknowledge him. And finally, he grunts. He says, and I look at him, and he says, "Aren't you going to get Mitch up?" Well, Mitch Williams was our closer. And Mitch, if you know him, Mitch was the wild thing. He was notorious for coming in, and he walked the bases loaded and some kind of way wiggled out of that jam. But I didn't say anything. And then he does it again. He said, and I looked at him. He says, "Are you going to get Mitch up?" So I looked at him, and I said, "Sim," I said, "Well," I said, "you gave me the night off. I'm going to give Mitch the night off because I'm not going to let him come in and blow my W." So he said, "Okay, that's fine with me." He says, "Just make sure after the game, if we win the game, the press may come in and ask you about it. Just make sure you have the right answer for them." But I loved him to death. I loved him to death because, he didn't have any rules. He just said, give it all you got when you're out there on the playing field.
Good question, Rob. And real quick, I know we're going to wrap it up here with our special guest, Andre Dawson. I have to ask this from my boss. Do you prefer the Hawk or Awesome Dawson? Like which, and how did that originate? Who gave you that name?
The Hawk is the result of one of my uncles at a very early age. I would sit out and watch a men's travel team practice. And at the end of the practice, I was about 9 years old. He called me out, and he hit me fungos for my batting practice. And if the ball took a bad hop, at third base is where I was positioned when he would hit the fungos. He said I would bounce on it, trounce on it, and it reminded him of a hawk. He said, unlike kids your age, you don't really fear the baseball. And it sort of stuck with me. My childhood nickname was Pudgy. I don't know why I was never really a fat kid, but
it should have been mine.
That was my childhood nickname. And when I went to Montreal, Chris Spire was the one that started calling me Awesome Dawson. And, that kind of, went over the airwaves for a while. But the Hawk has been the one that's really stuck for the longest and the one that people really identify me as.
And we just threw up the book, If You Love This Game, an MVP's Life in Baseball. So we just put that up there, Tony. We'll put that up there again throughout the show. And the Andre Dawson Foundation. Andre, can you maybe just give us a quick, brief description on that?
Yeah, I started the foundation when my grandmother passed. I wanted to initially let the foundation sort of cater to Alzheimer's, sickle cell anemia, and dementia. Okay. And I extended that with sort of going a different direction, and that was looking to do something with kids that weren't economically able to carry their own. So I looked at some of the youth programs, and then I looked at the scholarship. I wanted to do scholarships for individuals that had a certain grade point average and wanted to go to college and couldn't really afford it. But I just felt that, it was my way of giving back. My grandmother always told me, remember where you came from. Mm-hmm. And she was probably my biggest mentor coming up. And I owed so much to her growing up. My mother always said, I'm not gonna breathe down your neck, but you're not gonna be a disobedient kid. And just as long as you don't get into trouble or do anything out of the realm of what expectations we have. So my grandmother, I felt I wanted to do the foundation to honor her, but it was more so initially designed to cater toward Alzheimer's disease.
All right, that's you're a classy guy, and that's a class act right there.
Yeah, that's big time right there.
It is.
I got one question I got to ask Andre. What advice do you have for young ballers coming out, college and high school ballers? All of them have aspirations of playing pro ball, obviously Major League Baseball, and how tough it is. But what advice would you have for them today?
Well, some of the things that was instilled in me at a very early age is that you got to set the groundwork. You got to surround yourself with the right people, individuals that are going to be motivational, inspirational, pat you on the back if it's warranted, and give you a boot in the rear end if that's necessary. But have a game plan, dream big, and not let someone tell you that something can't be accomplished. But you got to be your own individual under a lot of circumstances, and just know that you're here for a purpose. Have an alternative motive in the event that what it is you seek, you desire, you want to be, don't work out for you. But just set the groundwork very early on, set goals, try and work in that direction, and believe in what it is, the blessing that you have, your talent that you have, and just see how far that can carry you.
Well, Andre, that's great advice. That's great advice, Al.
Yeah.
And
I'll take it.
And listen, we appreciate you coming on and being part of the show. I was a huge fan growing up. I love number 10. I used to pretend to be you when I was like 13, 14 years old. I got to be honest, I really did. I didn't have your speed, but kind of had your batting stance a little bit. But again, thanks so much for coming on. And maybe one of these days we'll have a FAMU reunion with Mr. Vince Coleman. We'll get them on. So, Andre, we wish you all the best. Have a great rest of the week and have a great spring. And maybe we'll see you again down the road. I'd love to do it again.
Thank you very much, and it'll be my pleasure.
All right, guys. Well,
Andre, you're a living legend, my friend.
All right. Well, we'll be back after this with more Al Chester and Benny the Book after this.
Forever 24 Fit, Leland's only gym with 24-hour access. Get fit when it's convenient, utilizing Life Fitness, cardio, and weight machines. And for those of you who prefer free weights, there is a free weight area as well. Start your membership today and get on your way to a better you. 6 Happiness. Enjoy fresh Asian cuisine in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere where we believe good times deserve great food. Featuring the best sushi chefs in the Leland area. So come on in and we guarantee you will be delighted.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz, with my co-host, Al the Rattler Chester. And look who just popped into the building. We got Benny the Book, the King of Carolina.
How you guys doing tonight? That was a great interview. Great interview. Andre's really class act and tremendous athlete. I mean, it's amazing how long his career was. I know. with all the knee surgeries and all of that, how he performed. I mean, you don't see that nowadays. Guys hurt their fingers, they're out 3 weeks. It's athletes aren't what they used to be. Even though they're bigger and faster and stronger,
they make more money.
And they make more money. It's just it's hard. It's hard to think.
What we're gonna have to do.
I tell you what.
We're gonna have to do a FAMU.
Guy,
we
man.
need to do a FAMU reunion. Andre, and Vince.
We'll do it. Let's make it happen. But I tell you what, he's a class guy, man. Yeah. And his disposition, I know you guys have never met Pop Kittles. I mean, Andre is just as cool, like running water.
Yeah.
His disposition and the way he articulates himself reminds me so much of Pop Kittles, man. It's incredible. But the guy was a tremendous athlete. I think he probably could have played some football, professional football, if he wanted to. But I wanted to ask him, and I know we ran out of time, who did he admire as a youngster growing up playing baseball? Because, I mean, he could hit that ball, man. And then the thing that Vince and I talked about in terms of Andre was just what a super talent he was all around. I mean, he was that guy who did everything, and Vince said he was obviously his idol the entire time.
8 Gold Gloves, and I don't think, did Tony even have a chance to show some of those defensive things? I mean, we could probably show it right now. You know something? Because, you know, he's not on right now, but he was such a tremendous outfielder, 8-time Gold Glove. He had speed. He had a great arm. And
great arm.
Tony can,
great arm.
Let's have Tony bring some of these amazing plays that he did in the outfield, which we didn't just get a chance to talk when Andre was on. But man, I'll tell you, he was a 5-2 player, Benny. He was a 5-2 player.
Yes, he was. Oh, absolutely.
And here's a couple of plays right there. Look at this. He goes and gets that ball. I mean, he lays out. I mean,
this guy's 6'3", 180 pounds. I mean, swift as a deer. Yeah. I mean, and could throw, could hit, could run. The complete baseball player.
Well, I really want to have him on, guys. I want to have him on again during the Major League season because he seems to have a pulse on what's going on in Major League Baseball. He's got some. I loved his commentary on Barry Bonds and Pete Rose. I really do think both of those should be into the Hall of Fame, like Jeremy Roenick in the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's our crusade. We got to pump Jeremy. He's got to get in the Hockey Hall of Fame. There's a lot of guys that need to be in the Hall of Fame, like Al Chester in the '78 Florida A&M Rattlers.
Right on.
I'm holding the sign for that, right? But guys, real quick, I know we got a lot of stuff going on. Before we get to our college basketball, we got tournaments running rampant right now. It's such a frenzy in the NFL right now. Free agency's opened up, and guys are changing teams. It seems like every hour.
Yeah. Bobby Wagner left Seattle.
Bobby Wagner left Seattle. Give us the update, Benny. What's going on? Who's moving?
The Ravens traded their offensive tackle Moses to the Jets.
Wow.
The Saints released Mike Thomas.
That's surprising. Yeah, although he's been hurt the last couple of years, but he's a big time talent.
He has been. You know, he's. You know,
you can see that one coming.
He's a weapon. Williams, San Diego's wide receiver. They released him. They just released him.
That was a cost-cutting move, I think.
He saved $20 million. They said.
Barkley's gone, right? He's gone. Cousins.
I got to tell you, we're going to need a new scorecard next year.
I know.
Because they're all over the place.
Al, we talked about Kirk Cousins, right? We said he's not a franchise guy. He's not an end-of-the-road guy. He's kind of a middle stat guy. And look at all the money that Atlanta just threw at him.
Man, I tell you what, he's a guy that's really taken advantage of the system, and he's made a boatload of money. I think he's just what you said, an average quarterback. He can get you to the door, but I don't know if he can kick that door in. Now, in Atlanta, he's going to be surrounded with a lot of extra talent. He's going to be playing indoors, but he's still the same guy, and he's older. You know, and then you talk about Russell
36.
Wilson going to Pittsburgh, and what's that going to do with Pittsburgh and how that mix is going to work out. And then they never did anything with the guy in Chicago, the quarterback in Chicago. He's still there. When we started the program, he was still there.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Benny, check the wire. He might be. I don't know. We got the wire ticket. Maybe he's.
No. I don't. I think they're going to hold on to him for some reason. I don't know why, but NFL free agency. What do we got left here? Ridley.
They're all business decisions, though. Everything is
true.
About business.
Ridley to
money. So they can
Ridley
have players.
to the Titans.
Yes, Ridley. Wait a second. I thought Ridley's going to the Titans.
Joining the Titans.
Yeah, Ridley's going to the Titans.
Okay,
$92 million.
Okay, so the Patriots. Well, and the Patriots, they just listen, guys. We talked about it last week. What if the Patriots draft a quarterback at number 3? They just tipped their hand. They just signed Jacoby Brissett to basically be the placeholder. He's back in New England where he was drafted. So you got to figure that the Patriots now with the 3rd pick are going to take either Drake May or Jaden Daniels, whoever's available, and they're going to learn under Jacoby Brissett. Would you think, Al? I mean, I think that's probably a good play.
I agree with you. I agree. I think Jacoby's going to keep the seat warm while they get a young guy ready to go. But they're definitely going to draft a quarterback. they sent Mac Jones back down to Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville. What's I don't understand.
He's a backup for, and that's actually an upgrade. That's an upgrade for Jacksonville, the number 2 quarterback.
Yeah,
Joe Flacco to the Colts. 1-year deal.
Joe Flacco off to the coach. Now he's to the Colts, and he's going to back up who? Richardson?
That's because Minshew went to the Raiders.
Yeah, that's right.
Minshew went to the Raiders.
Guys, I can't keep track of this. I can't keep track of this. I mean, and Josh Jacobs went to Green Bay, correct?
Yes. And they released Aaron Jones, and he got picked up a day later.
Wow.
But I tell you what, the big move is Derek going to the Ravens.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you what, they're going to be lethal.
With that offensive line.
They lost Queen, though.
They lost Queen to Pittsburgh, but I think Pittsburgh, listen, I love Patrick Queen, the LSU guy, but they paid a lot of money for him. They have the highest paid defense in the league, but they better hope Russell Wilson gets that offense straightened out. And every time we get on this show, Al says the same thing. You need an offensive line. Pittsburgh has not addressed this in 5 years. I don't care who's back there. They better get that thing straightened out. Tomlin's got to get that offensive line straightened out.
Yeah, it's not going. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. It all starts up front. We say it all the time.
I agree, and I actually I love that move. I'm not a Ravens fan, but I love that move. I think with that offensive line and Jackson at quarterback, they got to find some receivers now. But I'll tell you one thing: he's going to run wild. I mean, they run the ball heavy. They're a heavy run team under Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, and I like that move. I think he's going to put up a couple of really, really big seasons with the Ravens.
He's got.
How about this? This was interesting though. They play in the Super Bowl. They lead the league in rushing, and they run the ball only 6 times.
I don't get that one. I don't understand that one at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think that'll happen this year, Al, when they get in that same position. So guys, so obviously we've got a lot of stuff going on. By the end of next week, who knows who's going to be the quarterback at half these teams, but. Let's flip the switch real quick right now because we got NCAA basketball tournament time. Right now the conferences are in their tournaments. Sunday, the selection show, we'll know by 7:30 Sunday night who was in, and then the play-in games. And then I want to get your take on one thing on play-in games.
These next 3 weeks are
it's crazy.
Are crazy.
Call it March Madness, right?
From 11 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock at night, you can be watching basketball, man.
I love it. I got to tell you,
really,
if you guys have never been there, come tournament time, the best place to be in the world is Las Vegas. I've been there twice during tournament time, and I got to tell you, every game is on everywhere. You don't miss one play. And you get people dropping drinks off at you. You do a little, you play the slots a little bit. I know Benny be playing blackjack and all these other games I can't understand.
No, craps. I used to be a blackjack player, but once I learned craps.
It's a special time of the year for sure, man. And I tell you what, these players are going to be lighting it up so they can write it up. And I'm expecting some great basketball. And anything can happen. If you make it to the tournament, anything can happen. Because you can find a team with 19 wins playing a team with 23 or 24 wins who may be ranked number 1 or number 2 or top 10, and they go in there that night and they firing that thing up, they can send that team home, pack it. Yes. It's one and done.
Yeah, one, done.
And done.
Now,
absolutely.
I want to throw up the top 10. I made a change in the top 10. I want to see you guys what your take is on the Swartz Talkin Sports Power Top 10 this week based on what's going on. I still get the Huskies. I'm riding the Huskies. They're playing great basketball. Yes. I flip-flopped Houston and the Boilermakers. I like Houston's win last week. I bumped Arizona and North Carolina up. I knocked Duke out because they lost to Carolina in a game that wasn't that close. I think Kentucky enters the fray. Dillingham's a great player. Shepard can play. I think Calipari's a battle-tested coach come tournament time. I still like Auburn. They squeak into the top 10. Iowa State lost a tough one last week against Kansas State, but I still like their tenacity. Great defensive ball club, and they can score. So what do you guys think of the top 10? Are you surprised by me putting Kentucky in the top 10 and maybe not adding Marquette? What do you guys think?
No, Kentucky's one of the hottest teams in the country, and he's got these guys playing really well. They got 4 or 5 guys that at any time could take the game over. The guy was, I like Tennessee and I like Auburn, but Kentucky's been playing really good, and we'll get to see him in their tournament, the SEC tournament, and see how they do. But the 4 teams: Houston, Purdue, Arizona, and Connecticut. I got a feeling one of them is going to drop out, because if North Carolina wins the ACC tournament, I think they're one of the 4 best teams. I think they should be in the 1 through 4 seed.
I thought you did a great job with this top 10, man. The top 4, I think you can play musical chairs with those guys, but that bottom 5 to 10, I mean, it's just about mirrors what we see in the top 25 rankings already. But I think it's going to be a tremendous tournament. I think that, like you said, by the end of the week, we go into Selection Sunday, see where everybody falls in and who they end up playing, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think it's going to be some exciting basketball. It's going to be that special moment for somebody.
Yeah, Les, you were talking about Gonzaga.
Yeah.
You better watch out for St. Mary's. Never mind Gonzaga.
I know St. Mary's. Well, I think they won the outright title of the WAC. The regular season, they unseated Gonzaga, and then they just won the tournament, right?
And they just won the tournament.
They won the tournament. So, well, Gonzaga will get in. But
St. John, important game tonight, St. John's against Seton Hall. St. John's, they started out great, fell apart in the middle. I mean, the coach said, my players don't know how to play basketball. Right. And now they got on a little winning streak again. They feel people feel that if they make a run in the tournament, in their tournament, in the Big East tournament, they got a shot to get in.
Now, I like that too, because I think Pitino's a tremendously successful coach when it gets to tournament time. I got to ask you guys both a question, and this has really bugged me, and I've talked to my friends about this, and people who are out there maybe viewing can put up a comment on this. So we have the field, but then we have these play-in games, right? And what I don't understand is you have a play-in game for a 11 seed or a 12 seed or a 10 seed when a team that plays for an inferior league, let's just throw up the NEC, who I think Wagner or somebody just upset Merrimack. Let's face it, if they were in a Power 5 conference, they wouldn't win a game. They get a 16 seed. Why do they not have to playing at a really bad league, and a team that's going to be seeded 11th has to play their way in? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, true. I to tell you the truth, I really didn't realize that until you brought it up to me. I always thought it was to get into the one of the last seeds.
Yeah.
But
shouldn't it be L? Shouldn't it be, if you're ranking the team, shouldn't it be the teams ranked at the last or the 72nd or 71st team have to play their way in? Why should a team who's rated 38 to 40 have to play their way into the tournament? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it does make sense. You're right. I mean, the way I didn't realize it was like that until you explained it that way, because I thought it was just trying to create another opportunity for another team to actually make the tournament. But you're right. I mean, I agree.
Now, I understand, you want to reward your team when you win a conference or a league, but when the league, the power rating is down so low, when you know that if like the 8th place team in the Big 12 or the SEC or Big East goes in that league, they win every single game. They're not going to lose a game. And I agree. One and done, I know it can happen. Upsets have happened. Ones have beaten 16s. It happened last year with Fairleigh Dickinson upsetting Purdue, and it does happen. But there's no way a 16 is going to make a run to a national championship. They're going to be excited winning one game, and then they're going to get blasted in game 2. But I just wanted to get your take on it, because it's a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make
I don't get it. Well,
doesn't make sense.
Guys, this has been an awesome show. We had Andre Dawson, who was a tremendous guest. Like I said, we definitely want to do a Florida A&M reunion. We have to have Rattlemania in the house. We need to get Vince Coleman and Andre back with my captain. He calls me the chief. I'm calling him the captain, Al Chester. So we're gonna have to make that happen in the next few months. But guys, we're gonna be back. We're gonna do a show next week. I'm gonna be remote from California with Joni,
remote from
we're
New
gonna
York.
do a show on March Madness. We're gonna bring in Randy Slack on Sports back at ESPN. He's gonna come on the show, and we're gonna do our picks. And let's see how good we do versus the experts next week. But listen, Al, keep it real in Jacksonville.
Al, have a good week. Good seeing you.
You guys be safe. Stay good.
Yep.
Benny, keep it on the fairway. And I'll be back with the wrap after this.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. Really enjoyable show tonight. They're all great, but this was really special. Again, thank you so much to Andre Dawson for, I know his time was limited tonight, and he graced us with his presence and loved, recapping his incredible Hall of Fame career, a 2010 inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So that was outstanding. We got some good football talk in, a lot of craziness, free agent frenzy going on in the NFL. And again, our top 10 as put up by my amazing producer, Tony the Tiger Smeraldi. So if you haven't already and you're new to the show, hit that subscribe button. Please, we need subscribers. We're getting there. We hit over 700. We're marching to 1,000. So again, I appreciate all the viewers, all the questions, outstanding questions tonight for Andre. So thank you for all the support and continued viewership of Swartz Talkin Sports. So this is Les Swartz. We'll be back next Wednesday, 7 p.m. I'm going to be remote from California, but it's March Madness. The tournament will be taking full effect on the 21st. We'll have the brackets up. Tony will put the brackets up. We'll make our picks. Let's see how well we do, and let's see if you have any questions for us, and we'll do our best to answer them. So for Joni, Tony, and the entire Swartz Talkin Sports team, this is Les Swartz. We'll see you next Wednesday. Have a great week, everyone.